A Manual of Self-Awareness. Luangpor Teean Jita Subho. Foreword. Throughout the 30 years of his teaching, Pun Intapu, later known as Luangpor Teean Jita Subho, pointed out the true essence of truth which is latent in everyone without exception, regardless of nationality, religion, sex, or age. If the practice is performed correctly, one can see, know, and understand the truth, as the Buddha did. The method is to cultivate self-awareness, that, being aware of bodily movements, being aware of the movement of the mind. If one practices correctly and continuously, jnana panya, insight, will arise until the suffering comes to an end. We agreed to edit the teaching from various occasions and consolidate them into one source, so that they can be used as the manual for anyone who is interested. The contents of this book are the essence of Luangpor Teean doctrines, practical techniques as well as how to solve problems and obstacles that may occur. The fruits of practicing are included as a guideline in the appendix. We wish to thank to everyone who has helped in making this book possible. Luangpor Teean Jita Subho Foundation. Brief biography of Luangpor Teean Jita Subho. Luangpor Teean Jita Subho, 1911 to 1988, or Pun Intapu, was born on September 5, 1911, at Bohom, Umpur Chiang Khan in the province of Laos. He was the son of Jean and Soam Intapu. His father died when he was young. Since there was no school in the small village of Bohom, he did not have formal education in his childhood. The boy, like the rest of them in the village, had to help his mother in running their farm. At the age of 11, he was ordained as a novice at the village monastery, and stayed there with his uncle who was a resident monk. During a year and 6 months in the monastery, he studied Laotian scripts and ancient local scripts. He also started practicing various meditation methods, such as the Budo and breath-counting methods. After disrobing, he returned to his home. Following tradition, he was ordained as a monk at the age of 20. Again, he studied and practiced meditation with his uncle for 6 months. After returning to lay life, he was married at 22 and had 3 sons. In his village, he was always a leader in Buddhist activities and was highly respected, and chosen to be the head of the village on 3 different occasions. Despite of heavy responsibilities, he continued his meditation practice regularly. Later he moved to Chiang Khan, a larger community, where his sons could attend school. Being a merchant, he sailed his steamboat along the Mekong River between Chiang Khan, Nong Khai Vientiane, or even as far as Luang Prabang. He had opportunities to meet several meditation masters, and his enthusiasm in pursuing Dhamma, the truth, continued to strengthen. Furthermore, he began to realize that many years of being good, making merit, and practicing various methods of meditation had not liberated him from his anger. Finally, he determined to start searching for the way out. In 1957, when he was nearly 46, he left his home with firm determination not to return unless he found the truth. He went to Wat Rung Siamuk Daram, Thumbone Punpro, Umpur Tabor in Nong Khai province, Umpur Sichian Mai at present, and practiced a simple form of bodily movements, except that he did not follow the recitation of the words thingning, moving, stopping, like others did. What he did was only being aware of the movements of the body and mind. Within a couple of days, on the early morning of the 11th day of the waxing moon, the 8th month of 1957, his mind reached the end of suffering completely without traditional rituals or teachers. Later he returned home. He taught his wife and relatives what he had found for 2 years and 8 months, as a lay teacher. He then decided to re-enter monkhood in order to be in a better position to teach the people. The ordination was made on February 3, 1960. His teachings were spreading across the country as well as outside. He devoted his life to the teaching of Dhamma despite his poor health. He was diagnosed to have stomach cancer, malignant lymphoma, in 1982. In spite of his illness, he continued his work actively and incisively until the end of his life. On September 13, 1988 at 6:15 p.m., he passed away calmly at the age of 77, in a hut on Ga Buddhadhamma, Tup Ming Kwan, Thumbone Gudpong in Lae Province. Introduction. 1. The Dhamma, the truth, which I am talking, belongs to everybody. It does not belong particularly to any religion, whether Buddhism, Brahmanism, or Christianity, nor to any nationality, whether Thai, Chinese, French, English, American, Japanese or Taiwanese. Anyone who realizes it, possesses it. One who realizes it, possesses it. One who does not realize it, does not possess it. It exists in everybody regardless of his religion. Having realized it, you cannot prohibit others from cultivating it. Having realized it, you cannot destroy it, because it is indestructible. Nothing can destroy it. It is impossible to stop others from realizing it, because one who cultivates it will realize himself. One having realized, it is impossible to destroy because is so all the time. To man himself is religion. Dhamma is in man. Man is Dhamma. The ancients said, heaven or hell is in the mind, so is nirvana, the extinction of all defilements and suffering. Where is the mind? Have you ever seen the mind? If you have never seen it, you should practice until you know what the mind is. Hell is mental suffering or unhappiness. When it fades away, we are in heaven. Whenever anger recurs, we then revert to hell. 3. The Buddha nature is the mind that is clean, clear, calm, pure, bright and quick. This kind of mind exists in everybody without exception. Water and mud are not the same thing. It is the mud that makes the water look turbid, but the water itself is clear. Our mind is the same. If we realize this, we will gradually follow the path. The Buddha nature is the mind that is clean, clear, calm, and pure. When the mind is pure, the mud cannot pollute the water anymore. When the mind is bright, the mud will transform into sediment and break through the bottom. When the mind is quick, it is light and can see everything. The mundane Dhamma, worldly truth, and the transcendent Dhamma, ultimate truth, are in coexistence. If we really realize the latter, then we can distinguish them from each other. If we do not realize it, we cannot make a distinction. 4. The Dhamma that made Siddhartha become an arahant or the Buddha, existed prior to him. It is the neutral mind that exists at the moment, neither being happy nor sad. While you are listening to me now, how is your mind? It is neutral. Are you conscious of this state of mind? If you are conscious of this neutral mind, this is what we call calmness. You can work, talk or think anything. This kind of mind requires no effort. It can be easily taught, but one who does not understand it tends to make something easy unnecessarily difficult, or something simple to be complicated. This neutral mind is natural and requires no effort. Everybody has this kind of mind, but we have never looked before. It is called upekkha, equanimity. 5. Man is born to think. He thinks this and that endlessly. Thoughts flow all the time like a stream. Thought is the quickest thing. It is quicker than lighting or anything. Suffering arises because we do not see thought. Thought itself is not suffering. When thought arises, we do not see, know, and understand it simultaneously, so greed, anger, or delusion arises and brings us suffering. In fact, there is no greed, anger, or delusion. They occur because we do not see the source of the mind. 6. So let us cultivate self-awareness. When thought arises, we see, know, and understand it. It is sati samadhi panya, awareness, attention, insight. We call it self-awareness. Whenever we are aware, thought cannot concoct. If we do not see it, it will concoct endlessly. This method is the shortest way to sudden enlightenment. Part 1. Cultivating self-awareness. Self-awareness. Let us be aware of the movements of the body, for example, while we are blinking, be aware, while we are breathing, be aware. When thought arises, be aware. This is what we call sati, or self-awareness. Self-awareness is invaluable. We cannot buy it, nor can anyone cultivate it for others. For example, when I am clenching my hand, is anyone conscious of my feeling? No one is. Outwardly, you can see I am making a fist, but you are not conscious of my feeling. Similarly, when someone is making a fist, I can see but I am not conscious of his feeling. Rhythmic movements. There are certain techniques to do certain jobs in order to achieve the end. In the same way, the cultivating of self-awareness to achieve sati, samadhi, panya, awareness, attention, insight, needs technique too. Do not sit still. Move rhythmically all the time. Do not close your eyes. You can sit in any position or on a chair, stand or lie down. Now I will suggest the method to you. See illustrations. First, rest the hand's palm down on the thighs. Second, turn the right hand onto its edge, be aware, do it slowly, then stop. Do not say to yourself turn the right hand, being aware is enough. Third, raise the right hand up, be aware, then stop. Fourth, lower the right hand to rest on the abdomen, be aware, then stop. Fifth, turn the left hand onto its edge, be aware, then stop. Sixth, raise the left hand up, be aware, then stop. Seventh, lower the left hand to rest on the right hand, be aware, then stop. Eighth, move the right hand up to rest on the chest, be aware, then stop. Ninth, move the right hand out, be aware, then stop. 10th, lower the right hand onto its edge on the thigh, be aware, then stop. 11th, face the right palm down, be aware, then stop. 12th, move the left hand up to rest on the chest, be aware, then stop. 13th, move the left hand out, be aware, then stop. 14th, lower the left hand onto its edge on the thigh, be aware, then stop. 15th, face the left palm down, be aware, then stop. This is a practical way of cultivating self-awareness. We do not have to study the scriptures because they are only words. Studying the scriptures is not the way to enlightenment. This practice is the way to enlightenment. There are 8 steps of rhythmic movement in standing, 7 steps in sitting down. We should also be aware in other positions, such as lying on our left side, right side, or lying flat on our back, getting up from the left side, from the right side, and from lying flat on our back. You should cultivate self-awareness frequently. Walking back and forth, Jungama walking. After sitting for a long time, which may cause pains and aches, we can change the position to the walking back and forth. After walking for a long time, we can change to the sitting posture. This is called changing the positions, sitting, lying, standing, walking. You should allot them properly. Do not move the arms while walking. We should fold the arms across the chest, or clasp the hands behind the back. While you are walking back and forth, be aware of the feeling or the feet. It is not necessary to say to yourself, right foot moves, left foot moves. Do not walk too fast or too slow, walk naturally. Be aware while you are walking. If you walk without self-awareness, it is useless. Cultivating self-awareness in daily life. To cultivate self-awareness, we must practice as much as possible. We can practice even when we get in a car, or on a bus. While we are sitting on a bus or in a car, we lay our hand on the thigh, and turn the palm up and down, or we run the thumb over the fingertip, or we make a fist and open it repeatedly. Do it slowly and be aware. Wherever or whenever you practice, take it easy like playing. Only move one hand at a time, do not move both hands at the same time. If you move the right hand, do not move the left hand. If you move the left hand, do not move the right hand. Someone might say, I am very busy. I do not have time to practice, or I cannot do it, I am not pure enough. These are excuses. If we intend to do something, we can find time to do it. Whatever we do, be aware. For example, if you are a teacher, when you pick up a pen, pick it up with awareness. While you are writing, be aware. This is the natural way of cultivating self-awareness, learning Dhamma with nature. While you are having a meal, pick up the spoon, be aware, take the food into your mouth, be aware. While you are chewing food, be aware, swallowing food, be aware. Practice continuously like a chain. I guarantee the teachings of the Buddha, and the method I teach. I guarantee what I am saying, if you are serious enough and practice continuously, like a chain or the hands of the clock that rotate all the time. To practice continuously like a chain or like the rotating hands of the clock, does not mean that you have to cultivate self-awareness, by doing rhythmic arm movement, or walking back and forth all the time. The word to practice all the time means to be aware while doing all daily tasks, washing clothes, sweeping floor, cleaning house, washing dishes, writing, or buying and selling, just be aware. This awareness will accumulate little by little like the raindrops fall into a good container, and fill it to the brim. When we walk forwards or backwards, move the hand in or out, be aware. When we go to bed, we can make a fist and open it repeatedly until we fall asleep. When we wake up, we should continue our practice. This is called cultivating self-awareness. Summary. Practice the rhythmic movements continuously like a chain, as the Buddha taught. Be aware of it at every moment, standing, walking, sitting, lying, bending or stretching. When you practice the rhythmic movement, turning the palm up and down, raising the hand, lowering the hand, be aware. When you are nodding, and raising your head, be aware, leaning to the left, leaning to the right, blinking the eyes, opening the mouth, breathing in and out, be aware. When thought arises, be aware. Be aware of the movements all the time. Do not sit still. This is the technique of cultivating self-awareness. The essence of practice, a handful leaves Dhamma, is being aware of the movement of the body and the movements of the mind. I guarantee, if you practice continuously and seriously as I have taught, in at most 3 years, suffering will end. It may take only 1 year. For some people it may take only 1 to 90 days. The result is that suffering will decrease, or cannot disturb you anymore. Part 2. Walking on the path. Be sure that our objective in practicing Dhamma is self-knowledge. We should start from the basic stage and go step by step as the Buddha taught. If we do not follow this way, there will be no progress in our practice. Basic stage. For the beginners, doing rhythmic arm movement is better than walking back and forth. Move the arm rhythmically, slowly, gently, and lightly. When it stops, be aware of it. When it is moving, be aware of it. If you move the arm too fast, you cannot catch up with the bodily feeling that arises, because the awareness is not strong enough. We should practice continuously, regardless of tiredness. If we think we are tired and take a break, there will be no chain of continuity. After you have realized something called Rup-Nam, body-mind, then you can walk back and forth. You must really realize it. When thoughts arise, do not stop them. Let them flow, do not follow them but come back to Rup-Nam. Always be aware of Rup-Nam. Sometimes, piti, rapture, will arise. PT will carry us away from being aware of Rup Nam. As long as we are not aware of Rup Nam, our mind will be gradually dulled. Thoughts will arise, let them arise freely. You might feel dizzy or suffocated, if you suppress them. Be relaxed, do not worry whether you are aware or not. The first stage that one will realize is Rup Nam objects. These are Rup, body, Nam, mind, Rup acting, Nam acting, etc. See the appendix. One should review backwards and forwards, over and over. While we are reviewing these objects, thoughts will arise. Let them go. Whenever we are aware, the mind will stay with Rup Nam objects. Review them backwards and forwards, until they are embedded in the mind. When thoughts arise, sometimes we are carried away by them, which might make walking or doing rhythmic movement faster or quicker. We should be aware and slow down. It does not matter how long it takes. Seeing thought mind stage. After one has realizes Rup Nam objects completely, one should keep on observing thoughts. Speed up the rhythmic arm movement or walk faster. Do not suppress thoughts. Practice with ease. Observe thoughts with ease. Whenever thought arises, whether gladness or sorrows, be aware of the bodily movements, then thought will stop immediately. Generally, when thought arises, the mind will be dragged along, like a kitten trying to catch a big rat. The rat, thought, is bigger and stronger than the kitten, awareness. When the rat shows up, the kitten, by nature, will catch the rat. The rat is frightened and runs away with the kitten holding on. After a while the kitten becomes tired and let the rat go. Similarly, thoughts will arise endlessly and stop by themselves. As we cultivate self-awareness more and more, it is like we keep feeding a kitten until it becomes a big, strong cat. When thought arises, the mind will not be dragged along, and thought will stop immediately. If thought arises powerfully, we have to clench our fist tightly, or do whatever actions that suit us. If it is strong enough, then thought will stop by itself. Keep on practicing. Whenever thought arises, you will be aware of it immediately. As I have often told you, if there are two men and one chair, the man who is stronger and quicker will occupy the chair. When we cultivate self-awareness more and more, this self-awareness will replace the unawareness, so the unawareness will gradually decrease. Let thoughts arise, the more thoughts arise the more we are aware. When self-awareness increases more and more, it will catch up with thoughts. Suppose that 100 thoughts arise, we are aware of only 10 but we are not aware of the other 90. Next, thoughts are 100, we are aware of only 20 but not the other 80. We continue our practice until we are aware of 80 but not the other 20. Now, we are aware of 90 thoughts, then 95. When we are aware of 95 out of 100, we should practice earnestly. Do not be discouraged or slack or sleep during the daytime. When thought arises, we are aware of it immediately again and again. Our mind will change at this point. The path starts from here. It is the beginning of nirvana. Formerly, the mind was in the dark and did not know the path. When it can overtake thoughts, then the mind will be illuminated. This light is not the external light, that can be viewed by the naked eye. The mind itself is free and illuminated. It is called wisdom eye, the arising of Jnana of Vipassana, insight. We should continue practicing rhythmic arm movement or walking back and forth. We can practice at any speed we like. Keep on practicing. Let Jnana, insight, itself penetrate the objects of insight. There is no need to learn from any teacher or scripture. When Jnana penetrates the objects of insight, the mind will be free step by step. There are 5 steps: the first jhana, the stage of seeing, knowing, and touching the objects of insight with the mind; the second jhana, the third jhana, the fourth jhana, and the fifth jhana, respectively. When we know, see, and understand these objects of insight, thought will arise quicker. When we reach the last step, jnana will arise by itself. Once I attained this state, I understood the saying that the Lord Buddha has his hair cut only once. Whenever you have attained this, you could understand it, you cannot know it beforehand. If you know it beforehand, that is knowledge of Jnana. It is not being. When I see, know, and understand this, I realized, oh, the Lord Buddha has his hair cut only once, that does not mean the real hair. It means this was cut off. As we fasten a rope tightly between two poles, when we cut it in the middle, each part will return to its pole and cannot be rejoined. We will know and see the change. It is absolutely light, as if it is weightless. It is the end. When it ends, jnana will arise, and one will realize the end of suffering. Recommendations. There are two kinds of thought. The thought that comes in a flash, then goes away. This kind of thought brings anger, greed, or delusion. The second kind is the thought that we deliberately think. This one does not bring anger, greed, or delusion, because we intend to think with mindful knowledge. In this method, do not try to suppress thoughts. Let thoughts arise naturally. The more thoughts arise, the more we are aware. Some people feel annoyed with the distractions and worried that there is no samadhi, meditation. This is a misunderstanding. Distraction is a good thing because the more thoughts arise, the more we are aware. Keep on cultivating self-awareness earnestly, but do not concentrate. When thoughts arise, do not suppress them, but detach from them by being aware of the bodily movements. Self-awareness will replace the unawareness. Observing thought is the most important thing, which most people ignore. When thought arises, we begin to criticize or make comment on it. This means that we get into thought. It is not letting go of thought. It is knowing thought, not seeing thought. If we keep observing thoughts without any bodily movement, when thoughts arise, we will get into them easily. Therefore, it is necessary to be aware of the bodily movements. When thought arises, we will see, we will know. Whenever we see ghosts, deities, Buddha images, crystal balls, or even the Lord Buddha, that is not true seeing. It happens because the mind wanders away. We do not see the thought, so the mind concocts by itself. It concocts because we do not see the source of thoughts. When thought arises without our seeing, it will conjure up ghosts, colors, lights, deities, hell, or heaven. Whatever it is, we will see it as such. It is an illusion. It is the mind's trick. The seeing is true. What is seen is not true, so it cannot free the mind. Only if we see realities, the mind will be free from suffering. This is the shortest path. When thought arises, be aware of it immediately. This is the authentic Dhamma practice. Doing the rhythmic movement is only the technique, which can help to see thought. Part 3. Obstacles and Solutions. There are some obstacles in this method. I will recommend you how to solve these obstacles that may occur to the practitioner. Strain, dizziness, giddiness, suffocation. When we first begin our practice, we tend to concentrate. We want to know, see, be, and have. This is not the right understanding. If you know, see, be, and have, you might get strain, dizziness, giddiness, or suffocation. This is not the correct practice. When thoughts arise so much, we do not like it and try to suppress them. This brings us trouble. The correct method is practicing with ease. Look far away and cultivate self-awareness lightly and gently. Do not concentrate. Move or walk comfortably and rhythmically with awareness. Drowsiness. If you feel sleepy while practicing, you should change to another kind of work, for example, weeding, washing your face, taking a bath, washing clothes. We should find a way to avoid the obstacle. Calmness under unawareness. Calmness under unawareness is called piti, rapture, clinging to calmness. This is an obstacle. The cultivating of self-awareness is not to obtain this kind of calmness, but always be aware of the movements. Vipassana. After we have attained Rupnam objects, this is the end of the basic stage. Someone will stop practicing because he thinks that he has attained the highest Dhamma. At this stage, knowledge will arise endlessly and we will be proud of this knowledge. When thoughts arise, he does not see them, and then gets into them. One who attaches to Vipassana will be talkative and arrogant. The knowledge of Vipassana will soon be forgotten and makes man too proud of himself. This is called Vipassana. The solution is, doing rhythmic movement with ease, do not concentrate or desire for the result. Do the movements lightly and gently. When thought arises, be aware of the bodily movements. Jnana. When one realizes Paramatma objects, see appendix, Piti, rapture, will arise. One is delighted of this knowledge. In general, Piti is good, but according to this method, Piti is the obstacle of attaining the end of suffering. When Piti arises, one will attach to it. We should do the bodily movements vigorously, and as much as we can, to turn the mind away from Piti, and back to the movements. Do it slowly and rhythmically. When self-awareness increases more and more, Piti will gradually fade away and the mind will return to the ordinary state. Suffocation, giddiness, or strain may arise. We should practice with ease, look far away and move gently. We should not stop practicing because of these obstacles, but continue our practice earnestly. Do not sleep in daytime but rest at night. Vipassana. According to the texts, Vipassana means seeing false as true, hell as heaven, evil as good. Vipassana is the state of mind, when one discovers something excellent, and thinks that he can keep it. So he leaves self-awareness behind to get that thing. It is like it was stolen by a thief. When he starts looking for it, it is no longer there. It is hidden. One should not leave self-awareness, even at the end of suffering or whatsoever. I realized the end of suffering after I attained it. At that moment, I was in the state of Vipassana. I clung to ecstasy because I had never been like this before. I was walking back and forth and I felt like I was floating above the ground about 1 to 2 meters. Actually, I was walking on the ground. I clung to that ecstasy but it did not last for long. Then I was aware of myself. Why is it so? I began to review the objects of insight. At this stage, you should review the objects backwards and forwards, but this does not include Rupnam objects. After reviewing the objects, the ecstasy will gradually fade away. The mind will return to the ordinary state. Summary. If there is strain, dizziness, giddiness, or suffocation, we should do the movements gently. Do not concentrate. Do it with ease, look far away, then the uncomfortable feelings will loosen by themselves. The solving method of Jnana is the same. Vipassana and Jnana must be solved by correcting the technique. Do not review the objects of insight. In the case of Vipassana, we must review the objects of insight, Paramatma objects. Practice with ease. When the objects are clear, the strain will gradually decrease. Let thoughts arise, do not suppress them. When you practice, you must take care of yourself. Do not expect other people to take care of you. When anything that is not normal arises, you must stop practicing immediately. The abnormal state will gradually decrease by itself. Epilogue. 1. If we have right understanding, Dhamma practice will not be difficult. The truth that the Buddha taught exists in man. What he taught, everyone can do. 2. This method is easy. It is not necessary to study the scriptures, because the truth exists in man. Everyone can be aware of the movements of his own body and mind. Though we are not aware of ourselves, the bodies still move and thoughts arise, but we are not aware of them. The mind will conjure up unreality, if we are not aware of the movements of the body and the mind. This method is nothing other than being aware of the movements of the body and the mind. In other methods, There are many activities, for example, keeping precepts or practicing concentration. This method is not related to anything else. Why not? Because the truth exists within ourselves. 3. When we cultivate self-awareness, we should let every part of the body and the mind work naturally. Do not force them against their nature. This technique can be applied naturally, and does not do anything against the body's functions. Eyes, to see. Ears, to hear. Nose, to smell. The bodily movements must be done in a natural manner according to their functions. The mind generates thoughts, let it functions freely. Do not do anything against the natural functions of the body and the mind, but cultivate the self-awareness to catch up with the movements of the body and the mind. 4. There are two kinds of calmness. The first is the calmness under unawareness, a dull calmness like a brick or stone. It is called calmness without banya or calmness under delusion. The second is calmness with awareness. It may not be called calmness, but should be called enlightenment. This kind of calmness is calmness without anger, greed, delusion, calmness without ignorance, calmness without unawareness. Whatever you call it, it is only words. Calmness with awareness means we do not want anything else. We no longer seek for teachers, or methods, or places. Calmness means cessation. 5. The rhythmic bodily movements and the cultivating of self-awareness cause banya. This banya does not arise from intellect. It arises from the law of nature. We call it jnana banya of Vipassana, wisdom of insight. What is the meaning of banya arising? It means banya arises from the realization of a set of insight formulas. It is not necessary to learn these formulas from the scriptures. This set of insight formulas means success which is within the formulas themselves, as diamond buried in the mud, after being sifted, only the diamond remains. We should practice until these formulas appear naturally and exists permanently. Everybody has the set of formulas within himself. After attaining the end of suffering, jnana will arise. Birth is extinguished, existence is extinguished, the religious life is complete, and there is nothing left to do. The studying of Buddhism ends here. 6. Cutting the hair only once means, the body returns to its original state, and the mind returns to its original state by the law of nature. This is neither long nor short. It is insipid, wonderful, and respectable. You have never attained it before. Dhamma is not what you can imagine, you have to practice until attaining the state of being. Everyone should keep in mind that if we do not attain this state, when we are nearly died, about 1 to 2 seconds to 5 minutes before the last breath, we will experience this, then our breathing stops. This is the truth, the ultimate truth. Everyone must die and will experience this. If we do not realize this, we will live in the mundane world. If we realize this, it is the way out. When we see this, birth extinction state, we will realize the state of dying. It must be like this. We will know how to die. Everyone must come to this point. No one can escape because everyone must die. This truth is unchangeable, whether one realizes it or not. It is so. 7. Being aware of the movements of the body and the mind, can lead us to this point, the end of suffering. This is the path to walk by oneself. It is the one and only path. This path is different from others. You will realize Rup-Nam objects within 5 to 10 days, if you practice earnestly. One who practices seriously, within 1 to 3 months, his state of mind will change. It is the beginning of the path. If you are a conscientious man, no longer than 3 years, you will attain the end of suffering. For one who is not serious enough, it is useless even after 10 years. I have challenged many people to practice. More or less, some must have realized. Warning. You should not practice according to your own content, opinion, or thought. In order to make your practice progress, You should be obedient to the instruction of the craftsman, the teacher. You should avoid talking to each other, and refrain from taking all kinds of addictive things, such as cigarettes, tea, coffee, etc., otherwise your mind will be attached to them. You should practice with determination. Do not deceive yourself. Do not sit still. Keep doing rhythmic movements continuously. Do not concentrate. Practice with ease. Open your eyes. Let thoughts arise freely, do not suppress them. For this method, you will see, know, and understand this way, see appendix. If you see other than this, it is not correct. To one that feels. The teaching of Luangpor Teean. Original preface. This book is not concerned with words, but with the practice at yourself, the fruit that is received, you receive it at yourself. This method is therefore the most direct and easiest. It is to watch the mind at the moment it thinks, to know the deception in the actual moment, and to resolve it there. It isn't that knowing the thought we evaluate it, because doing so is delusion, anger and greed as well. When we can cut here, there is Sati Samadhi Panya complete at this moment. Practitioners who tried the practice, both Thai and non-Thai, especially Singaporeans, have given donations towards the printing of this book, which is being published for those who have never tried the practice. The practice described in this book is of such value to be priceless, just as the life of humans has no price and cannot be bought or sold. Luangpor Teean. February 1 BE 2527, 1984.
It rains hard on a covered thing. It rains not hard on an open thing. Today we shall talk about how to end dukkha, suffering, according to Buddhism. The Buddha taught that each of us could come to the very important point of the cessation of dukkha. So I shall talk about a simple and direct method of practice according to my own experience. I can assure you that this method can really release you from dukkha. When we talk about a method to end dukkha, the words are one thing and the practice is quite another. The method of practice is a method of developing sati, awareness, in all positions, standing, walking, sitting and lying. This practice has frequently been called satipatthana, the grounds of awareness, but whatever you call it, the point is to be aware of yourself. If you are aware of yourself, then moha, delusion, will disappear. You should develop awareness of yourself by being aware of all your bodily movements, such as turning your hands, raising and lowering your forearms, walking forward and back, turning and nodding your head, blinking your eyes, opening your mouth, inhaling, exhaling, swallowing saliva, and so on. You must be aware of all of these movements, and this awareness is called sati. When you have awareness of yourself, the unawareness, which is called moha, or delusion, will disappear. To be aware of the movements of the body is to develop sati. You should try to develop this awareness in every movement. When you are fully aware of yourself, there arises a certain kind of panya, knowing, in the mind that knows reality as it is. To see yourself as you are, to see Dhamma, actuality, the way things are, the truth of nature, of existence. To see Dhamma isn't to see deities, hell, or heaven, but to see oneself turning the hands, raising and lowering the forearms, walking forwards and back, turning and nodding the head, blinking the eyes, opening the mouth, inhaling, exhaling, swallowing saliva, and so on. This Rup Nam. Rup is body, Nam is mind. Body and mind are dependent upon each other. What we can see is Rup, and the mind that thinks is Nam. When we know Rup Nam, we know reality as it is. When you see with the eyes, you should be aware of it. When you see with the mind, you should also be aware of it. Dhamma is yourself, everyone is Dhamma, whether male or female, Thai, Chinese, or Westerner, each is Dhamma. The practice is with us, and the teaching of the Buddha can really lead us to the extinguishing of dukkha. Individuals are Dhamma, Dhamma is the individual. When we know Dhamma, we will understand that everything is not as we think it is. Everything is sammuti, supposition. This is the paññā that arises so that the real teaching of the Buddha can be realized. Whether the Buddha existed or not, Dhamma is there. When you really see this, you will be beyond your superstitions. Once you that Dhamma is yourself, it is you that lead your own life, not anything else. This is the beginning of the end of dukkha. Next, we try to develop sati in all our movements in daily life. For example, when we make a fist or open it, we are aware of it. And when we are aware of all our movements, then not knowing, or moha, disappears by itself. When there is awareness of ourself, there is no delusion. It is like pouring water into a glass. As we pour the water in, it displaces the air, and when we have filled the glass with water, all the air has gone. If we then pour the water out, air instantly goes back into the glass. Just so when there is moha, sati and paññā cannot enter. But when we practice the developing of sati, doing awareness of ourselves, this awareness displaces moha. When there is sati, moha cannot arise. Actually, there is no dosa, moha, lopa, anger, delusion, greed. Why not? As you are listening to me talking, how is your mind? Your listening mind is natural, and free from dosa, moha, lopa. Now we come to know sasana, religion, Buddha sasana, Buddhism, papa, sin, and paññā, merit. Papa is stupidity, paññā is cleverness or knowingness. When you know, you can relinquish. Sasana is the individual, and Buddha sasana is the sati paññā, awareness knowing, that enters and knows the mind. The word Buddha means one that knows. In developing sati in all our movements, we develop total awareness in the whole body. When thought arises, we see it, know it, and understand it. But in the case of common people, they are part of that thought, so they cannot see the thought. Suppose that we are in a mosquito net, which is inside a room of a house. We must first come out of the room and the house to see that we were also inside them. Thought is the same. We cannot see it if we are part of it. We must come out of it in order to see it clearly. When we see it, thought stops. It is just like bringing a cat into our house to get rid of the rats that are disturbing us. Cats and rats are enemies by nature. At first the cat may be very small and very weak, while the rats are large and full of energy. So if the cat pounces on a rat, it is dragged along as the rat runs away, and, after holding on for a while, it must let go. We cannot blame the cat, but we must feed it. We feed the cat often, and soon it is very energetic and very strong. Then, when the rats come, the cat can get them. When the rats are caught, they die of shock at once, before the cat eats them. Thought is the same. If we develop sati, then when thought arises we become aware of it, and it stops. The thought does not continue, because we are aware of it. It disappears because we have sati, samadhi, setting up the mind, steadiness of mind, and paññā all together at that moment. Sati, or awareness, means to be alert like a cat watching for rats. When thought arises, we do not have to be a part of it. It will arise and disappear by itself. When there is sati, there is no moha. When there is no moha, there is no dosa, moha, lopa. This is called nam-rup, nam thinks, and we know the deception, we know it in time, we know the protection, we know the cure, just this is sati. Sila, keeping moral precepts, is normality. Sila is the result of a normal mind. This is the same as sati, samadhi, paññā. The method to develop the total awareness that can end dukkha, as I understand it, and as I believe the Buddha taught, is to practice in our daily life. So we need not sit cross-legged with eyes closed. If we sit like that, we cannot work. If a thief comes, he will succeed in robbing us, so we should open our eyes, and then we can work at any kind of work, and all the time we can practice the developing of sati. Whether we are students, teachers, parents, sons, daughters, policemen, soldiers, or government officials, all of us can fulfill our responsibilities while practicing developing sati. Everybody can do their duty practicing developing sati. How? Since we do not sit with eyes closed, we can go on with our duties and see our mind at the same time. The mind has no real self. As soon as it thinks, we see it, we know it, we understand it. To develop sati is to shake the knowing element of a person. Everybody has the reality in their own mind, but if we cannot see it, we do not understand it, but it is still there. Now if we look, we see it. When we see like this, it is called seeing Dhamma. Seeing this kind of Dhamma can get rid of dosa, moha, lopa. Magga, the noble path, is the way of practice leading to the cessation of dukkha. The way of practice is to be aware of thought. Our body works according to our duties and responsibilities, but our mind must see thought. Dukkha arises and, because we do not see it, it conquers and enslaves us, it sits on our head and slaps our face, but if we can see it, know it, and understand it, then it cannot defeat us. Dukkha is like a leech that attaches itself to us and sucks our blood. If we try to pull it off, it is stubborn, it resists, and we hurt ourselves more. But if we are clever, we simply use water mixed with tobacco leaf and lime, and squeeze the water onto the leech. The leech is afraid, and drops off by itself. So we don't have to tear it out, or to force it, in order to get rid of it. This is the same. Those who don't know try to stop dosa, moha, lopa, they try to fight and suppress it, but one that knows just has sati to watch the mind and see thought. It is like turning on an electric lamp. A person who does not know about electricity will try at the bulb instead of the switch, so the lamp does not light. But someone that knows about electricity knows how to use the switch, and the lamp lights up. Dosa, moha, lopa is like an electric lamp, the thought is like the switch. The thought is the cause of this derangement. If we want to eliminate the derangement, we come to the thought. When we have sati watching thought, dosa, moha, lopa cannot arise. Actually, there is no moha, no lopa and no dosa. We touch the switch here in order to have light there. We develop sati here in order to end all dukkha. Dukkha arises from moha. When we have sati, there is no moha and so no dukkha. When we move our hands, we feel, and the awareness of this feeling is sati, and when we have sati, we are separate from thought and can see thought. You should not pay so much attention to the movement, but use sati to watch conceptual thought. Just passively see the thought, do not stare at it. When thought arises, let it pass away. Actually, there is no moha. Moha arises when we are not aware. It is like when we build a new house, there are no rats, but when we fill the house with things, the rats come. Sometimes, when people criticize or blame us, we feel disappointment. In this practice, awareness of the disappointment will arise at the same time, like the cat catching a rat. When we can maintain our mind in this way, dosa, moha, lopa cannot arise. When thought, suffering, or confusion arise, do not try to stop it, but observe it, and we will understand its nature. As soon as thought arises, sweep it away immediately and come to be with the awareness. Thoughts, suffering, confused mind, they will go by themselves. Any time that thought arises, we know it, even while sleeping. When we move our body while sleeping, we also know it. This is because our awareness is complete. When we see thought all the time, no matter what it thinks, we conquer it every time. Those that can see thought are near the current to nibbana, extinction of dukkha. Then we will come to a point where something inside will arise suddenly. If the thought is quick, panya will also be quick. If the thought or emotion is very deep, panya will also be deep. And if these two things are equally deep and collide, then there is the sudden breaking out of a state that is latent in everybody. With this occurrence, the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind are detached from sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and mental objects. It is like uncoupling the drive mechanism of car. When the parts become independent of each other, the car, although it still exists, can no longer be driven. When this state occurs, we do not die. We can still work according to our duties. We can eat, drink and sleep. But now, by the law of nature, everything is void, and this is the unchangeable law. Suppose there is a rope drawn tightly between two posts, and we cut it in the middle, so that the rope falls apart. If we want to tie it together again, we cannot. If we untie it from a post to tie it in the middle, then we cannot tie it to the post again. This is like the six senses of one that realizes their original nature. When their eyes make contact with an object, there is no attachment, just as a screw that is stripped, without threads, cannot become attached. All of the Buddha's teaching aims to put an end to dukkha. If we do not understand this, we will be in doubt about his teaching, and speculation about rebirth, heaven, hell, and so on, speculation that should be ignored, will plague our mind. The teaching of Buddha is timeless, and is not limited by language, race, nationality, or religion. According to the Satipatthana Sutta, if you practice Satipatthana continuously, like a chain, that is, to develop sati at all moments, then arahata, extinction of dukkha, or the attainment of the anagami, non-returner, can be expected within 7 years. Or in as short a time as 7 months or even 7 days. If you develop sati according to the method I have explained, and have sati continuously like a chain, then in at most 3 years dukkha will be diminished by 60%, and in some cases completely eliminated. Some may achieve this in as little as 1 year or even 90 days. There is no gladness or sorrow, contentment or discontent. This way to the cessation of dukkha is an easy way. It is difficult because we do not really know. Therefore we have doubt and lack of confidence. When we are confident in every step of practice, it is not so difficult. You can practice it anywhere, but you should really know the practice. If you can assure yourself, then you have a refuge in yourself. Religion means this refuge. If you study books for many years, it will still be theory. But if you really practice, it will not take you so long, and you will know it much better than the theorists. In the Pali texts there are two important mental capacities, the first is sati, calling to mind, and the second sampashanya, awareness of oneself. When you are aware of the movements of your hand, you have both sati and sampashanya. The fruit from doing this is very great, it is incalculable. You cannot buy non-suffering, but must practice by yourself, until it arises by itself, because it is already there. Making merit and keeping precepts are like unhusked rice, which is inedible, but useful because we can use it to grow next year's crop. Making ourself calm is like husked but uncooked rice, and is still inedible. There are two kinds of calmness. The first is samatha, concentration, one-pointedness, calmness, the second vipassana, seeing the true nature of personal existence, calmness. In doing samatha meditation you must sit still, close your eyes, and watch your inhalations and exhalations. When the breathing becomes very subtle, sometimes you are not conscious of the breath, and you feel very calm, but the dosa, moha, lopa cannot be eliminated, because there is still not knowing, and you are not aware of thought. But vipassana meditation can get rid of dosa, moha, lopa, and this kind of calmness can be experienced anywhere and at any time. So we do not have to sit with eyes and ears closed. Our eyes can see, our ears can listen, but when thought arises we see it. This kind of calmness is latent in everybody. Our mind is originally clean, illuminated and calm. That which is not clean, illuminated and calm is not our mind. It is kilesa, defilement. We try to conquer this kilesa, but in actuality there is no kilesa at all. So how can we conquer it? The only thing that we can do is just to see original mind clearly, to encounter the thought clearly. When we see the mind clearly, there is no moha. The word clean indicates the mind's natural state, not stained or covered by anything. We have satipanya penetrate into the mind and see it, knowing it to be stable and unaffected by anything. This is the cleanness of the mind. The illumination of the mind is like having a bright light that allows us to go in safety wherever we may go. In this radiance we see our life mind all the time, every minute, every second, every instant. This is the illumination of the mind. Calm means cessation, the cessation of dosa, moha, lopa, of all agitation and difficulty, the cessation, too, of seeking any method or system. We need no longer look for a teacher because we really know, for and by and in ourself. When we really know the mind, we know it to be clean, illuminated and calm at all times. When we know the mind, we know how dukkha arises and how dukkha ceases. We know thought every time it thinks. We are even aware of our heartbeat. And whatever our movements are, we know them. We know by watching naturally, without strain or tension. The knowing is very quick, it is quicker than lightning, quicker than electricity, quicker than anything. The knowing is the same as panya, the same as satipanya, sati and samadhi and panya, they are all the same. The panya really knows everything. Even when the slightest sound occurs, we know it. The wind touches our skin, we know it. Thought arising in any manner, we know it. When the thought is deep, the panya is also quick. However quickly thought arises, the panya knows the thought. This is called patijjasamuppada, dependent co-arising. When there is no avidya, not knowing, the structure that gives rise to dukkha is broken, because the knowing is there.
May all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease.